welcome back to another episode of Ever Felt Like This for Season 4 of Round of the Twist. 21st century Round of the Twist.
2001, baby.
2001. And that made me deeply uncomfortable, but then the opening frame of the title sequence was Bronson about to be abducted by what looked like some kind of Muppet bird.
Yeah.
Like a kind of feral big bird, which you could imagine would happen in Australia.
I lament the world did not go the way of more puppets.
I feel like we might be circling back.
I hope so.
Because I really want to see it happen in horror more. You know, horror used to have big puppets and they'd be like, well, this is just a puppet. And then they'd cover it with clear goo, usually lube. And you'd be like, well, now that's scary. Because nothing evokes pure terror more like an incredibly lubed up Muppet. And,
oh, my God.
You know, yeah, you just imagine like Big Bird, but like, you know, the spark of sapience gone from his eyes. And then just like emerging from a bush, mad with hunger or arousal.
Both.
Yeah, and it just you know, it sees Bronson. And Bronson reminds him of like, you know, some kind of genetic memory of Telly. And recognizes it as both food and mating.
I see.
Which Telly hated.
Ugh. Ugh. I'm uncomfortable.
The next frame, too, was like just the family all dressed as babies, and I'm not looking forward to that.
Oh, God. Why are they doing an ABDL episode? I'm scared. I'm not ready.
Don't want to know what that stands for. They're
Adult baby diaper lovers.
I just hope those people find meaning in their life and happiness that they need.
They have it. It's diapers.
The only thing I could think of with that was like the whole thing about like, was it Rainforest Con or something? Like it was like a furry convention that just started out of hand and got worse.
Oh, God.
And it's like why they're banned from a hotel chain or something.
Oh, no.
Like basically people microwaving their shitty nappies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
it's worth reading about. It's a classic.
God. Okay.
It's a great moment in internet subculture history.
Let's get the show back on track.
I mean, you say that.
Yeah. This episode's called Welcome Back. Apt for the return of the season.
It's funny, too, because it's like, it's not like this was just the year after. Like, this occurred like a regular season of television might. It's not like the other times where it was like, oh, yeah, there's like a year or two. Like, because what was the fucking space between the first seasons? It was a long
time.
I gotta double check that now, because I know.
I believe it was like, because the actors got too old, so it had to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the first season was 1990. Which, you know, you may think is just 11 years away from, like, 2001, but trust me, in 90s years, that was like 100 years. 100 fucking years. Yeah, like 6th of April, 1990. It's a long fucking way.
Yeah, so 1990, 1992 for the season 2.
Yeah.
Then 2000.
Yeah.
8 years.
And then 2001. And, like, that's 2000 to 2001, even, like, 1990 to 1992. That was, like, because they had to change the kid actors because they got too old. And, like, you know, I mean, obviously, yeah, 8 fucking years. That's basically an adult now. But then, like, 2000 to 2001. All right, we have what appears to be a fucking television series occurring. You know? Which is one thing I do sort of miss a little bit about the old world, was, like, TV seasons would be seasonal. You'd be like, okay, that show's done for like, you know, you'd have 26 episodes, and that's half the year, and then you'd wait half a year, and then there'd be another 26 episodes. As opposed to like, you get 6 episodes now, and then 5 weeks break for some reason, and then 2.5 episodes, and then another 7 weeks break, and then the final 3 1/4. Doctor Who's been the fucking worst for it. Like, it's just all over the shop. Why even bother having series? Just roll up on cunts. Just surprise, here's all 12 episodes of this one. Gonna broadcast it on the now defunct analog signal.
So this episode starts with a stage and some stage actors dressed up in like time period costumes.
Like what people would like think of when you say Shakespearean actor garb.
And they kind of say some gibberish. It's kind of
Yeah,
unclear what they say. And then they kind of just
I think it's like vocal warm-ups, probably.
And then they melt into sparkles. And it says "Welcome back" in like on a kind of
a
flag banner thing.
Yeah. You know, actually, now that I think about it, it's probably really good that like Port Naranda has one of Australia's best gestories, because I'm guessing that's where all those costumes came from.
Of course.
Yeah.
I forgot about the jester.
Yeah, everybody does, until, you know, you feel stupid, but where are you going for your pantaloons?
Yeah.
You know, not Townsville, that's for sure.
And this episode starts off with the twists coming out of the lighthouse, and they seem pretty excited about a play. And Tony's like, well, "Since when were you kids into acting?"
This was actually like modern writing. This was, how do we get the fucking plot expressed in a compressed amount of time so that we can then have an episode? And it's, why are you guys interested in acting? And like, you know, fucking Linda says being Ophelia would be growing, like a growth experience for her. And Pete says because actors get chicks. Which is pretty much the two reasons anybody gets into acting.
Pete has some weird character growth in this one because he spent so long in previous seasons pining after Fiona. And now he's like...
Now he's actually in a relationship with her.
And he's like, I don't want that to be anymore.
Yeah.
And Linda's like, what?
I mean, like...
Does she know that? And he's like, well, she will when I tell her. And it's like, oh. Oh,
he
God.
wants to pull the, like, let's see other people card. Because I'm guessing he assumes being, like, on stage is going to get him loads of tail, and he wants to take advantage of that. And, like, that's moderately understandable, but also, like, he is an idiot, so...
Take what you can get, Pete.
Yeah. Like...
You're not exactly 10 for 10 in the brains department.
No, and, like, we've been through this, you know? Like, if you were already drowning in it, it'd be like, yeah, all right, fair enough. But, like, you know... It was like that fucking... the rape lipstick, and that was about it. You know? Like, aside from that, you fucking... taking what you can get. Let's not fuck this up. Of course, he fucks it up, but, like, you know... The bulk of that occurs later. And so... Also showing up at the theater is Gribble.
In a mustard suit.
Yeah, no, it's fucking insane. He looks like a wolf that's about to go watch a strip show. You know, like, it is dangerous. That suit is dangerously close to Zoot. It is probably 2 sizes too big for him. Somehow, it hangs on his frame. Unless he's a bit like Kingpin and just super fucking buff under there. God, imagine if fucking Gribble was, like, just ripped this whole time and none of us knew.
He's ripped fat.
That would fuck me up.
My father had a suit made in Thailand.
Okay, so Australian, like, tradesmen should never get suits made in Thailand because they will be...
It was orange.
Oh, God.
Not bright orange, like, you know, the slight dull orange.
Yeah, like a muted, like an earthy tone.
Yeah.
Orange. Still.
I wonder if I still... I have that suit jacket. I don't
Oh,
know if
fuck
I don't know if
yeah.
I still have it. I need to search for it.
Yeah, you do. I want to see this.
Because, like, it's hideous.
I'm sure it fucking is. Man, like, my fucking... my aunt's, like, fucking wedding photo was on, like, my grandma's, like, you know, mantle for fucking forever. And, like, legit sky blue shirts with, like, the roughly fucking...
Yeah.
Like, the most goofball 70s bullshit you've ever seen. Completely unironically, I might add. Like, absolutely fucking deranged. But, like, that cannot be comfortable to wear in Australia. Like, he's basically an effigy of the sun in a manner that I think the sun might find offensive.
I just imagine it's that episode of Always Sunny when they're back in talking about cracking the Liberty Bell, and Dennis is dressed like one of the, what are they called? They're like the dudes with the pompadours and everything, and he's like, hello.
Oh yeah, like a fucking old timey English like outfit.
Yeah. That's what I imagine. Bunch of those.
I'm just still stuck on the idea of Gribble's actor being ripped. You know, I can't.
Mark Mitchell.
Yeah, like, you know, he's just always, but like, because have you ever seen him, like, without
No.
a shirt? Yeah.
No.
So he might be fucking buff under there. You don't know. Buff Mark Mitchell. Just
I'd believe he'd be a wrestler. Look at him.
just savagely, too. He's probably, like, really, like, tall as well. You know, like,
He's
like,
Bulk Bogan.
how Vincent D'Onofrio is, like, 6'4",
Yeah.
which isn't really that tall, but then you put him up against every other male actor who's, like, 5 feet tall, and then suddenly he's like, oh, yeah, look at that guy.
Yeah. So
It's
Gribble was talking about the play, and he wants to. He's like, you know, why can't I be the star? I paid for it.
Which is, yeah, so clearly, like, his whole reason for funding this play existing at all is so him and, like, his family and kids can be the stars of it.
Which is, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, you know, stupider fucking projects have been launched for less, I mean.
And so they go into the playhouse, and then we see like ghosts pop out of a pillar,
Yeah, like, just ghost heads, like, sort of morph out of the...
and they're like talking about how they want to get their
Yeah, they're talking about, this might be their opportunity to get their curtain call.
yeah.
And so we find out a little later, like, basically the next scene, that there was a fire in the theater years ago, and this family, the Von Clapp family, burnt to death.
Yeah.
And now they're stuck in the theater haunting it until they can get their, like, you know, the thing the family was aiming for, which is their fucking applause and their curtain call.
And so Snapper is doing a play,
yeah.
but the most disturbing thing is the new Snapper.
Oh, yeah, fuck.
He just comes, it hits us hard.
It really
like,
does.
I wasn't expecting any cast changes.
No,
in
because
this
I
one.
literally wrote at the top of my notes, like, fucking, all returning actors is a nice feature. You know, it's nice to have that content. Haven't had that before. And then they have to fuck that up by having some new Snapper who is too tall and angular to be... Like, Snapper had, like, fucking... You know, the pedophile from Family Guy?
Yeah.
He had that kind of energy where he was just so small and so slight that he was clearly harmless. And that kind of, like, lets him get away with being a villain in a lot of ways, because, like, who cares? You know, a breeze would remove him from your life. Whereas this guy can't do, like, Snapper's, you know, self-important voice, really, so it just comes off as unbelievably sinister.
Yeah, it's a bit much.
It's just rapist Snapper.
So he's announcing the roles for the play, and most of the roles are going to the Gribbles.
Yeah.
To which, you know, Linda gets peeved at that. Faith is sick; she runs out of the theater.
Yeah.
So like Pete goes outside. Everyone sort of goes outside, and the ghosts follow. And
Yeah,
they're all
like-
sizing them up, and they're like, I could play that person.
Yeah,
I could
'cause,
play
like-
them better than themselves.
Well, that was the thing. Like, earlier when they poked their heads out, the ghost dad was like, we can do this. And then the ghost kid was like, how? Like, we don't exist.
Yeah.
And then so I'm sitting there thinking, oh, okay, the ghosts are going to possess the fucking twists.
That'd be the smart idea.
Yeah, and then that's obviously a plot. And then, you know, credit where it's due, this show does have a way of zigging when I think it's going to zag. Because rather than, like, you know, possess the twists, they look at them for a bit, and then they just, after the twists leave, they just morph into the twists.
Yeah. So Pete talks to Fiona, and he's like, you know, I think we should see other people. He says it in a long-winded way, but that's essentially what he says. Like, you know, you should find other relationships to make sure that our relationship is the main relationship you want. And
If
she's
you love
like,
something, set it free.
she's like, oh, bye. Like, she's not thrilled with this. And then Pete goes, oh, she's planning to give me the flick all along.
Yeah.
She's calculating, and then runs off like in a hissy fit.
Yeah.
And it's like, Pete, this is all you, buddy.
He's very, very stupid.
He's very stupid. So the ghosts go back in, and everyone's on stage, and they're sort of rehearsing, and the ghosts introduce themselves. And Snapper's thrilled. He sees their period costumes. He's like, oh, you know, you've brought your own period costumes. They all introduce themselves as the Von Claps, and they're like, please call us these names to help us stay in character and method. And he's like, ooh, method actors, ooh. And Snapper's like getting
Loves
off
it,
to
yeah.
this.
And they also, like, you know, he's like, all right, well, we'll get, like, Gribble Jr. to do, improvise a scene as like fucking Hamlet.
And he goes, "G'day, Ophelia," and it's like, "Oh, buddy."
No, the actual line he says after that is, "My heart is yearning and my bum is burning." And Gribble's attempt, and then Snapper is not happy with that.
And the old Von Clapp does not like this one bit. And Pete, who is Patrick Von Clapp, has previously, just before this, swept Fiona off her feet and said that she's the only woman ever that he will love and all that. And so she's swooning. He plays the part of Hamlet, and Snapper's like, "Well, I think we've got a new Hamlet."
Yeah, like each of them gets up and just does a performance that's so good, Snapper can't like deny it. And
Matron is about to kill someone. Ralph, watch your back.
I do love like just how savage Matron gets immediately.
So they all get their parts.
Yeah, like the Gribbles and the bullies all lose the good parts, and like they're stuck being like. Except I think Gribble Senior. I think he still gets to be what he wanted, which was the spearman for some reason. He seems okay with it.
Yeah,
just really strange.
He just wants to carry a spear.
I think he just wants to be on stage.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. So after that, we cut to the school, and Bronson and Faye are going into class, and everyone's calling them Lady Sarah and Barnaby. And Bronson's really upset at this.
I know, it's so funny. This is a great thing about, like, children of that age, though, is, like, they can wind up with cruel nicknames that are just nothing.
Yeah.
But, like, they just react, they overreact to it, and it's like, well, too late. Now everyone's calling you Barnaby. And for all that kid's just called Barnaby. Like, as some kid called Barnaby, all right, I'm not going to argue with that. But no, that's just the thing they call him because they know it fucking sends him berserk. And dear God, does it send Bronson berserk.
Oh, he is getting...
Like, instantly, don't call me Barnaby! It's like, fuck, man, I'm going to call you Barnaby now.
And the one kid is like insisting. He's like, "Can you guys sing a song?" He's like, Lady Sarah and Barnaby did it, and they were fantastic. And like,
yeah, Mum said that you were at the theater and you were singing, and Barnaby did a backflip, and then he screams, "I'm not Barnaby." And you think this is going somewhere, and it sort of does. It's just show and tell, and Bronson brought in a rotten mussel.
Because everyone's like, "What's that smell?" And Faye then is like, "Actually, no, what is that smell?" And Bronson's like, "It's my show and tell. I brought a rotten mussel from the beach." And they all kind of go, "Oh," and walk away. And Bronson smells it and goes, "Ah, the smell of power." I was like, oh.
It's just such a weird... Because I was kind of curious, is like... Because normally the joke is like the ghosts possess the family, and like you get that kind of interplay. And I was like, well, all right, if the ghost is going to be the family, what's the family going to be doing really during all of this? You could just stay at home. Yeah. You could just they're having no adventure this week.
And... So Faye is pregnant. And that's why she's getting sick. So she's trying to work her way out how to talk to Tony about this. And also, I was right. I did look it up. It's a different actor.
Is it?
Yes.
Fuck, it looks so much like
her. She's very look-alike. But yeah, Faye is a different actor. Faye and Snap are the only actor changes.
Like, that is fucking uncanny. I was like, I swear it's just a hair change or something. I wouldn't have even thought twice about it if you hadn't fucking mentioned
Trudy
it.
Hellier in Series 3 and Susan Chapman in Series 4.
That is nuts.
Because they do look very similar. Because I was like, the face is off to me. So yeah, she's getting the courage to tell Tony. But then Gribble comes up wearing, as you said, Nickelodeon.
Yeah, like he's got one of those like fucking... Really, in the States, you might say, like, early 90s. In Australia, it was definitely mid-90s. Like, it just looks like, a fucking Rugrats title page.
Yeah.
But he's wearing it, and it's his workout gear. And that's just what workout gear looked like for a while, and I have no idea why.
And he is dying.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to do cardio in, like, the Australian sun, which is something most countries would, spy agencies would refer to as a stress position. Like, that's not something you do willingly.
No.
So, yeah, Faye's got to explain to fucking Tony where babies come from. And so, yeah, Gribble's, like, doing this shit so he can, like, get in touch with his character because he seems to actually, give a shit. And then he sort of, like, falls over on Tony's water feature that he's building. And I did love this. He sort of, like, palms the broken water feature back to fucking Tony and just goes, "This stuff you do. Take it to the tip. Take it to the sea. I say this as a friend." That's how long. It's been a while since we've seen Tony doing any of these actual essential.
I mean,
job.
look, Tony must make money because before Faye, he was the breadwinner. They lived in a lighthouse.
I am kind of curious because, like, it's one of those things it's either or. You know, a lighthouse in some kind of beach in Australia.
Did he inherit it?
That would I feel would make the best sense. It would make the best sense if it was some like, but I swear that never came up at all in any other episodes.
Well, at one point they're gonna lose the lighthouse because Gribble's trying to sell it.
Yeah, but I think
It's weird.
I'm pretty sure they bought it. Like, I would say that like it would make more sense if it was like legit, because I swear there have been sort of like familial connections, but I might be misremembering some of those first episodes. But like, if it was just you've got no money, you're trying to live in Melbourne, you can't afford it, your fucking great 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 uncle dies and has left you a lighthouse. It's like, all right, there you go. Because otherwise, buying one, I figure, has got to be either really weirdly cheap or just hideously expensive. Because
I can't imagine it would be cheap.
I mean, I feel like a broken down one that isn't being used. Like, I guess the reason I imagine it's cheap is because I just imagine not a lot of people would actually really want to live in a fucking lighthouse. You know? Because you think, oh yeah, that sounds cool. And then it's like, after, you know, your knees explode from stairs and you realize, hey, I'm in the middle of nowhere. Like, you're living in a place called Port Noranda.
You could
know.
install a granny lift and supercharge that bad boy. Imagine going up.
Yeah. Like, just hire some of the fucking carnies that build Echo rides.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just like fucking... So that's, like, there's nothing saying you, like, our old age can't be fun. I want one of those fucking upstairs chairs, but fast.
Yeah.
You know, put, like, some cushions at the other end when I fly off. You know, I'll be fine. Keep me spry. Alright. So fucking... The kids are, like, now kind of... So, like...
They're suspicious.
Yeah, because, like, each of the kids has had some weird thing where, like, something's up. You know, people are asking them, you know, like, fucking Fiona came in and was fawning over Pete and angry at Linda and it's like, all right, something's afoot. And this is the shit that I like, because A, you can cut down on a bunch of fucking plot chaff with this, and B, it makes sense. Of course the kids are gonna say something's fucking up. They've had cloning machines and ghosts and other weird... They're like, hey, fucking something weird. A weird occurrence is occurring again. It's time to go figure this shit out. And so they catch the ghosts on stage just doing, like, fucking, you know, the vocal exercises. And as they... You know, Bronson says, what are we doing over there when we're over here? Which is there's a few solid lines in this episode. And then Bronson and, you know, the kids are poking about and Bronson loudly announces that they won't hurt the ghosts. And then the ghosts sort of appear and like, yeah, we all burnt to death in a fire. And we're stuck here until, like, you know, we get our curtain call.
Yeah, so they're like, okay, you know, that's cool.
Yeah, they was like, all right, you know, you're just pretending to be us. I'm not being like, you know, body jacked or something weird. I could just be at home, and if you want to pretend to be me to do like a fucking shitty regional theater production of Hamlet, hey, fucking go for your life.
And I love it because like Gribble is shown like outside the playhouse that he's like, you know, what's the point of like of paying for this and hosting this if like I'm not the star? And Gribble Jr. is like, charity?
And then Gribble's like, I've never asked for a handout.
What comes next? I think something.
They go inside. So Gribble Senior and Junior go inside and you know, getting into their like fucking third-rate actor costumes. And the ghosts poke their heads through the wall.
Yeah. And they're like, whoa. And they're like, you know, how did you do that? And they're like, it's quite easy. You know, we'll show you. And Gribble Senior's like, I look forward to this.
Yeah, this I gotta see.
And so they go in the room and they're like, lock the door.
Yeah.
Okay? Get the key. Give it to your father. Yeah? Put it in the toilet and pull the chain. It's one of those old chain toilets. Those things freak me out. And key goes out and they go, now, like... What did he say?
It's just like...
Run like billy goats at the wall.
Yeah, run like billy goats at the wall. And then they go through because they're just ghosts. And the ghosts are standing outside and you just hear thump, the thump, 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 thump. And there was a really late thump too, which I got to assume was Rabbit. figure that it would work for him.
Yeah.
That was actually funny. You know, like this, they didn't ruin the joke. We just hear, you know, the sound of the fucking bullies and the Gribbles slamming into the goddamn wall and knocking themselves out.
The ghosts are like, the Gribbles can't make it, so we need to play them, and you need to play us playing you. And everyone's like, oh.
Yeah, that's too many phases for Bronson.
Yeah. And Snapper, poor Snapper. Because...
Yeah, it's funny because I'm just thinking to myself, wait, Tony and Faye are in the audience.
Yes.
And then at that moment...
Yeah, at that moment, Snapper sees them in the audience, sees them leave, and he goes, oh no. He's like, delay curtain, and he goes outside. And then he goes...
As he's going outside...
He sees them inside.
Yeah.
And he's like, Faye and Tony outside. Faye, Tony inside. And the poor dude starts having a breakdown. Faye's like... Tony's like, everything in life is perfect. I don't want anything to change. And Faye's like, oh...
and then we cut to inside with like Rabbit being dunked in the toilet to find
head
the kid.
first.
Yeah, like he's
in there.
Yeah,
and he's screaming.
He doesn't like
can't
it.
find it. And
then like so Snapper is still racing around. Sees Faye and Tony inside again. Faye and Tony outside again. Goes to run inside, knocks himself out. Right when Faye's about to try and explain babies to Tony, Tony looks over and is fairly distracted by seeing just Snapper unconscious on the ground outside. Because there's a lot of ways that, you can, like, cut off the necessary explanation, and it would just be kind of stupid. Like, oh, hey, look, a cloud. It's like, no, that's not more important than what's happening here. But, like, all right, you could understand that conversation would be interrupted by seeing, like, a guy just face down on the ground in front of a building.
Yeah. So, like, Ralph, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'll just, get ready for the curtain call. And
you know what's weird is like Esmond Storm was still doing like writing and directing for the series. He just, I don't know, he's got bored of being Snapper, I suppose. I mean, honestly, if like with the if this episode's a sign of like what happens when he shifts behind the camera, great, because it's a lot better.
He had his day in the sun. He got to have Faye. He got to have the motor car.
He rode off into the sunset in that fucker. We just get a great shot of Rabbit sobbing and fisting a toilet. It just cuts to that and then cuts away. That's just what Rabbit's doing right now.
So Snapper comes back inside and sees that, like, Tony's on stage and he's like a ghost.
Yeah, they're doing, like, the conversation between Hamlet and his dead dad, except here the dead dad's actually dead and partially translucent and also floating, and then does his own special effects with fire and shit. Which, look, to be fair... Yeah, if I was seeing that shit in like a fucking, regional playhouse, I'd be hugely impressed.
Yeah.
And naturally, everybody claps.
So Snapper freaks out because he hears these thumping.
Yeah.
So he runs backstage and he finds the thumping and they're like, and Rabbit's like, "Sir, I'm stuck in the toilet." And they're all like, we're not on stage. And he's like, "Well, quiet, you're disturbing your performance." I don't have the key. So he's just telling them to be quiet and just have to write it out.
Yeah, Gribble tries to knock the door down and fails.
And
then we get the, end of the play, everybody dies. And then in what is a flawless summary of Australian culture, Hamlet ends, and then Bronson comes out dressed as a kangaroo and delivers the last line and hops away. And the ghosts are backstage hearing all the applause. They get their curtain call and they vanish in a puff of light and smoke. And then, everyone's still applauding, and then the Gribbles manage to finally escape, and they get on stage and they act like, like they act kind of like they're freaked out. Because, like, everyone's already applauding. I don't know. This is the bit that sort of didn't work with me.
Because it kind of like, they didn't know what to do.
Yeah, they didn't know their lines or anything.
And it's like, well, the play's over.
Yeah, that's the thing, it's like, everyone's just applauding. Like, I figured they'd be sort of like, oh, this is nice. Look, I'm standing on stage, I'm being applauded. But, they freak out because they don't know their lines, and then just Linda and Pete decide to let them suffer. And I was like, yeah, there we go.
Because the ghosts they took their bows, they turned back into themselves, which no one seemed to bat an eye at.
We're just used to shit now.
They turned into their sparkles and off they went.
Yeah, it was funny because, like, there was kind of an actual stage effect of like, you know, a bit of flash powder and smoke when they fucking transformed, which I feel is like them also just like, you know, they didn't want the audience to know they were ghosts. They wanted the audience to think they were just actors. Who, but you know, that was like actually a solidly functional written episode. You know, and it almost sets a worrying standard. Because there was just so much stuff that the series wouldn't have done normally. like a little intro where it's just, alright, here's our little fucking dollop of exposition. That explains the shit that's happening for this episode.
It's... The season, I fear, is going to be troubling.
I mean, New Snapper is a bummer. This episode was very, like, New Snapper heavy. And also, he did kind of act a lot more like Old Snapper after that first thing. But that first speech was just, like, nefarious.
Yeah.
It did not have the right tone.
It's like he, like, took someone's skin and was like, I'm close enough.
Yeah. It's an Edgar suit kind of shit. Like, it was menacing, you know. By the end, it's like, all right, yeah, he's kind of goofy, but, like, it's one of those things where it's just... Snapper, like, Esmond Storm with that stupid bow tie and just being tiny, and he had those, like, fucking frightened child eyes all the time. You know, it fit the character very, very well, whereas this guy has just got physical traits that don't quite fit. You know? I mean, aside from that, great episode. It worked. It did something weird with, like, the ghosts not possessing them, but it fucking, you know, it didn't fuck anything up. You know, probably about the worst part of it was just the tag gag of just Gribble and that blundering on stage. I mean, I really think they could have just, like, stayed in there with, like, fucking Toilet Rabbit.
Toilet Rabbit.
You know, having to make do living. Because, I mean, it just cut to Rabbit sobbing, fisting a toilet, and then cut away. Like, there wasn't any extra bullshit. It was just, like, he's just, in tears, you know? Like the ending of Saw, basically. You know, where he fists the toilet. Do you suppose Jigsaw sourced that feces somewhere else, or if was that all his? Guess we'll never know.
We'll never know.
That'll be for Saw 11.
Write the Saw directors and ask them.
Do Mr. One. All right, Amber.
I bet you no one's ever asked you this before.
Yeah. I got you a question right here, champ. Ever felt like this? Have you ever acted in anything? Have you ever completed a task you've put off for a long time?
Never. I have ADHD.
Have you ever been locked in anything? Now, I know we already did locked in a cold room, but this is going to be expanded to, like, you know, not just a cold room.
What's the first one again?
Have you ever acted in anything?
I mean, no. Had to do like scenes for like English class. That's about it.
Yeah.
There's never like in a play or anything. I wasn't part of the drama.
I did drama, but that was because it was that or economics.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like, oh, I'm not fucking doing economics.
Yeah. No acting.
I mean, I got out of most of the acting for a senior year fucking drama thing by writing it. And that got me, like, just... that was genius because, A, I gave myself the least to do.
True.
And nobody noticed. And B, the teacher was just so staggeringly impressed that I'd written it that I, you know, got away with, like, just basically having to skirt around anything and be in the background. I like the narrative parts of things like that. I'm not... You know, I think the problem is like, just existing is an act for me.
That's fair, yeah.
So, like, having a fucking act on top of that's like, you know, giving someone the wrong prescription glasses. It just burns my brain.
Yeah. That's true, yeah.
Also, it's for gays.
That's
it,
yeah.
I feel like I could, like, I could probably be like Randall in, like, fucking Clerks. You know, if you have a role that is written to just be me in a hat,
yeah,
it's like, okay, I could probably do that. Anything else? No. I'm gonna just throw rocks at you until you leave me alone.
That's fair.
That's up to and including voice acting.
Mm.
Because, like, I played the start of, like, Resident Evil, like, the original Resident Evil. Like, I was looking at the Sega Saturn version of it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was just curious. There's like only some slight differences. But, man, it's one of those things where, like, the baseline competence for the level of acting you get on, like, TV and movies is so good you forget what, like, actual bad acting looks like.
Oh, God.
Most of the time, in most shit, what you're going to see is, like, a miscast or, like, bad direction. You know? You're not going to see actual goddamn bad acting.
Yeah.
The voice acting in Resident Evil.
Oh, it's something else.
It's barely qualifies as voice talking. Like, it is stunningly bad. And I'm not talking about, like, the slight gaps between character sentences because the discs are going to load it. Like,
what's the Japanese track like?
God only knows. I'm willing to bet 1,000 times.
Because, like, I imagine it is because...
voice acting just has a longer fucking tradition.
Exactly. Because, like, I think a lot of the big problem, from what I remember, is that when it was adapted and things like that, the Japanese directors would have a lot of sway on what happened. So they didn't really care about performance quality. They just wanted the meaning across, which was why always it sounded really kind of stiff and boarded and didn't make sense a lot of the times.
Oh, like, you forget how bad it is.
Oh, you absolutely do.
So...
like, go just, like, for an example, go, like, look up Wesker comparisons, because Wesker's had, like, 6 voice actors.
Yeah, no, the funny thing is there's a tone Wesker has that's consistent across all of the different actors. And I do appreciate that. But, like, the first Wesker, like some of his first lines about, like, don't open that door are, like, delivered with tones that just don't make sense, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely think I could probably do a better job.
Absolutely, I think so.
I have no business. Like, if that's the case, you fucked up somewhere.
I am kind of bummed they replaced DC Douglas. DC Douglas was the one who did 5 and Marvel vs. Capcom. They've got a new actor for Remake 4. And I'm kind of a little bummed by that, because, like, I feel DC Douglas is, like, the penultimate Wesker.
I think that there's a fundamental element of, like, forms of Wesker, and, like, particularly with us, we've grown up with and fallen in love with very campy Wesker. You know, like, he is an egomaniac who loves performance even within character. You know, like, he's just a showy person. And, you know, that's, like, I sort of get that maybe not fitting entirely some of the remake, and especially, like, you know, Resident Evil 7 and 8, like, those kinds of, you know, tones. It could be tricky to get that to come across, and it might not work. You know, it might wind up feeling really goofy where it shouldn't be.
And it's kind of sad because, like, in Dead by Daylight, the guy who plays Wesker is, like, completely separate. Like, he's done Wesker for that game alone. Huh. And it's quite on track on DC Douglas's performance.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that, like, whoever that first one is had this slight nasally tone to it, like the slight back of the, you know, the nose thing. And, like, that is fairly consistent across all the ones I've heard. But, like, yeah, like the remake, you know, the GameCube period remakes and, like, you know, Resident Evil 4. There is a certain, like, fucking razzle-dazzle.
Poor performance indeed. He's so good. I love him.
It's just, yeah, like, that's not bad acting. It's overacting, which can, in some situations, can be bad, but in other situations can be fantastic. Don't get me to play Wesker.
All right, what's the next question?
Ever completed a task you've put off for a long time?
God. Fucking no. Not often.
Anything at all?
No, I mean, yeah, obviously. Look, when I was at TAFE, a lot of the time, projects pile up.
Transitioning count as a task, I suppose.
Yeah. Like sometimes, like, you know, chores and stuff, like doing washing, and there's lots of stuff. It's life. It happens. Like, especially because I have, like, crippling fucking autism and ADHD. It just, stuff. It's like when my mum texts me and I'm like, if I'm doing something and I see the text and I'm like, Mum texted me. 2 days later, she texts me again. Why haven't you texted me back? And I'm like, because I forgot.
Yeah.
Because I saw it and in my mind I'm like, I'll answer that later. Never. It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, with me, like, the big one was, like, writing. And I figured out what it is. I changed laptops. And the old laptop used to sit comfortably on my bed. So I'd be in bed with it open. And I'd be laying on my stomach. So, I mean, I could write. And because the light's off, I should be... I mean, this is the thing. I'm most active when I should be sleeping.
Yeah.
And if I had if I have anything else in front of me... I'll do something else. But because it's just like the little dinky laptop, I'm not playing a game on it. I'm not doing anything. So it's just like, oh, okay. And that's where I'd get like a bulk of my like structural stuff done.
Oh, yeah.
Like not the meat and potatoes or not the, fucking actual polish, but like I'd get the idea finished.
Yeah.
I'd get like the, bits and pieces fucking done. And I'd be doing that at like fucking 2:30 in the morning. As opposed to like, trying to get like a healthy night's sleep. And now I've got one that doesn't quite rest on the bed, so I just don't have it open. And, like, my evening fucking routine has completely changed.
Right.
And now that just means that, like, oh, yeah, that was actually where I got, like, fucking the bulk of my fucking work done. And so now I gotta fucking, I don't know, train myself to do it at a different time. I mean, that and, like, the fucking, doing the DOS thing 5 days a week kind of, like, ate up a chunk of it. That's, the problem is I have, like, just a set amount of, like, doing things in my head.
Yeah.
And once that meter's finished, it's just like things have been done. And it's like, all right, you gotta fucking like train yourself to like do something about that. But that is doing things. And the doing things meter's down. Well, then fucking I don't have fucking meter left over to fucking get the thing meter fucking problem fixed.
Yep, I feel ya.
I don't know, closest I've got to that was getting the fucking driving cabinet built. Because that would have been a fucking impossibility. Like, prior to the fucking pills. I'd have just, like, even if I managed to get a hold of the fucking actual cabinet, like, the idea of tearing the cabinet apart, rebuilding it from the fucking ground up, and getting a goddamn, TV to fit, like, fucking impossible. Absolute fucking miracle of fucking modern science, and I managed to get that completed. Like, well, gonna go downstairs with a mallet and a chisel. Well, better find out that, like, people in the fucking, later, like, cabinet makers from the late 80s and 90s had fucking built these things to fucking last. Oh, that was fun. Although the fucking, the Logitech G25 I had in there finally died. And it wasn't just like a fucking little, scanning wheel problem that I could fix. So it's just like, well... I mean, to be fair, that thing's like 20 years old. That is a 20-year-old wheel.
Yeah.
So now I gotta get a new fucking wheel. But still... Ever been locked in anything that's not a cold room?
The door handle fell off my bedroom door. So I couldn't get out.
That's,
Yeah.
That's fairly classic locked in, too. Like, that's TV show locked in.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to lock... You can... Like, getting locked out of something's fairly easy. I mean, being locked in somewhere is just weird.
And let me tell you, trying to put that thing back together was one of the worst experiences of my life. Do you think that I could find out how to do it? Because everything I looked up on the internet. I went through like 30 different videos. I was looking at schematics for doorknobs with the part numbers and everything, and none of them matched.
That's insane.
Like, they were just like, oh yeah, there's a thing here, you just release and you can put it. And no.
Is it? It's not the knob here, right?
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Fuck, I want to look at that knob now. Because I've taken apart doorknobs.
I eventually worked it out, like because a
lot
of doorknobs around the base plate have a little inlet that you can put something in there. Yeah. This one does not. And the way it works is there's two base plates that go on either side of the door.
Yeah.
And you screw one knob into once knob goes on, there's two big screws that go through the middle.
Let's screw the knob.
And one side goes on. The other part has a removable base plate at the bottom of the doorknob. And it screws onto the base plate. And
the shaft that goes through the
one of the sides of the doorknob screws onto the base plate.
Right.
and you've got to put it together in such a meticulous way. And it's like, this must have
That's
been
weird,
the
'cause
old one
normally-
before a revision.
Yeah, because normally the knobs will attach to a shaft that runs through the
Yeah,
door.
the shaft is there, but you've got there's
But
two
the
bolts.
knobs attached to the plate.
Yeah,
That's wild.
it is, and it took me forever to find out, and I figured it out by myself because all of the part revisions, even the exact same number ones at Bunnings and stuff, were all updated. They're all new.
I want to take that doorknob to like fucking, Antiques Roadshow. Like watch the guy go, oh wow, you've got like the deformed like 718 line. That's where you have to attach it to the fucking, base plate like a lunatic.
Because for those who don't know, like with a door, there's a hole that is drilled with a drill bit, like a circular
A hole punch,
cut.
yeah.
And inside there's usually a small metal rod that is attached. I don't know why, but there's a piece of it missing.
Huh.
So in one side it sits comfortably, in the other side it's kind of lax. So just using the doorknob over time, it just unscrews itself.
That is fucking amazing.
It is a pain in the ass.
You got the wonder knob.
I did. I got the one knob. But yeah, I got stuck in there for a bit until I figured out how to put this thing back together.
Oh, God. That's very funny. I don't know, like, having a little brother and just growing up with, like, cousins and shit and fucking around, it's like, invariably you'd get locked in a cupboard or something. And so over the years you learn, like, okay, the boot of a car, you can just, like, move the latch with your finger. It's very, very, very hard. Like, it'd have to be some kind of either custom-made fat kid abduction vehicle or, like, some kind of ancient fucking car to not be able to just get out if you're in the boot. Like, I'm pretty sure it's almost a design feature now is to make sure you can't get abducted. Because you can just see the latch. You're just like, oh, yeah, there it is. Boop.
Yeah.
And then you're just out of the boot. So, like, everyone learned you can't lock me in the boot. It's like, okay. And then there were times when, like, we did find one time this fucking, it was a porta potty down the road from my grandmother's house when they were building up the fucking area down there. And you could lock it from the outside for some reason.
Oh.
And I'm just not sure why you'd, like...
Oh.
Yeah, like, I understand it having, like, say, a little latch that you could put a padlock on. So,
that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, you can keep people, like, stupid kids from fucking with it at night and, to transport it, obviously. You don't want the door flying open while you're trying to transport your fucking porta potty. But there was just, like, this thing on the front, and you could just turn it, and then the person inside couldn't get out. And I'm like, you can't leave that with tradies. You can't leave tradies with a fucking...
Oh, no. You can't leave that with anyone.
No.
The moment someone goes in there, I'm running over and going,
yeah, you're in the always toilet now. Like, like, it's one, like, even, it's like, yeah, you can't leave that with teenage kids, but, like, you fucking can't leave that with adult tradies. It's like, what happened? Oh, yeah, someone's going to the toilet who hasn't, worked on this site before. Well, guess what today is? Gonna be in there a while, champ. I kind of wonder, like, what was the fucking... Because that had to have been a design. I've never seen that on any other porta potties.
It had to be a wrong design. It had to be something gone wrong. I do not believe that's what it was supposed to be.
Someone got it from, like, a prank store.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, then, be times where we'd be playing, like, fucking hide and seek, and you'd be in a cupboard. And then... The worst ones were like, because there's those like really shitty basic cupboard latches that are like a little metal rectangle and you see the other little metal rectangle slide out. And like a lot of the time you can just shove those.
Yeah.
But some have like the pressure of like shit set up in a way where it really requires the key to rotate the latch to it. Like you can push the little bit all you want and you're just not going to, get much going there. And I did get locked in one of those like... under the house one time. But then that's just like... it's one of those situations where there's only so much you can get out of that. Like, because you got to let me out eventually. And the longer I'm in here, the more reason I've got to, like, do something terrible to you. So it's just like, we've locked you in there. It's like, okay, all right. It's not like a porta potty where it's like you're locked in there with poo. Where, like, just the longer that is, the funnier it gets. It's just a cupboard.
Yeah.
It was fucking. I'm just in a space now. Pretty sure that's it. My brother and cousin got trapped in like a fucking couch one time because it kind of collapsed on them.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, I was in fucking tears because I just remember, like, it was a broken couch top of another broken couch. We were waiting for, like, the curbside pickup to get rid of these broken couches. And I can't, it was my cousin was in there, and I'm pretty sure it was my brother jumped on it because we were playing hide and seek again, and, we'd been unable to find Adam for fucking ages. And then finally, it's like, oh, he's in between these two broken couches, right? And my brother jumped on the top couch, and it kind of collapsed into and kind of fused with the bottom couch.
Jeez.
Creating like this bizarre couch jail. And I never forget just in fucking tears seeing like my cousin's just panicked eyeballs like peering out from like this little tuck crevice that he'd found. And because the funny part was like the locking wasn't a mechanism we'd engaged that we could just as easily disengage.
No.
The couch, we weren't expecting this to happen. The couch just moved, and now you're in couch jail. And I'm sorry, but that appears to be something that the universe did. Like, you can yell at us all you want. We can't fix this.
Yeah.
You're just in here until the gods decide it's time for you to get out. He eventually had to tear the upholstery.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was kind of like the Frank birthing scene.
Oh, God.
Yeah, just him trying to fucking wriggle his way out. And it's like, it was lucky that it was already in the broken couch pile. Because it was well and truly fucking, wrecked after this. All right. Now from one jail to another conceptual jail. Letters from the fans. From a KeepetClassy fan.
Hi.
Have you ever been without proper adult supervision? Here's a story I don't normally share. Boy. But it's been a long time enough. Time to crack it open and see what I can learn from it. I'll try to keep it short.
Sound of that.
Yeah, like it's that is one of those ones. I was like, here's a dark family secret. In Central California, my buddy Tyler's stepfather owned a small pharmacy in one of the downtown bodegas. That's insane. That's just a wild sentence. Like, it was a pharmacy in a bodega. I think that's just a drug dealer.
Wait, this is America, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was no secret that the $1 or less store next door was a front for drug dealing.
Oh, there
knew
you
each
go.
other, and a lot of shady businesses went down in that area. Between the buildings was a small storage room and bathroom. Tyler had converted into his very first bachelor pad at 15. He would live there for free in exchange for doing labor for both businesses. Tyler had dropped out of school at that point, and it seemed like a sweet gig to me. That is like, a classic teenager sensei. It's like, yeah, I got my own place. It's a storage shed between a drug dealer and a bodega chemist, which is, again, what I assume what many people would just call a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Here is where things get a bit grim. Tyler was the angriest kid I have ever met, and somewhere into his late 16s, 17s, he began fighting with his stepfather, whom I remember being a pretty mean guy. His father looked like the main character from the film Falling Down, but that's beside the point. It's not. It's an excellent addition to this story. Once I was visiting Tyler, and his stepdad called us both into the pharmacy and asked us to mind the shop while he ran an errand. That's amazing.
Whoa.
I didn't agree, but also didn't disagree, which apparently means I volunteered. Tyler's stepdad walked out, and Tyler cracked open a couple of free sodas for us. After about 15 minutes, his face changed. He hopped the counter, closed the grate to the store, locked it, and went berserk. Without a word, he began kicking anything that could be kicked and pushing over anything that could be pushed. I felt like I should say something, but I didn't know what to say. You know what? That's fair. He shoved me aside and returned behind the counter where he opened some drawers, reached into tight spaces, and began producing hidden-away drugs. He shoved them down the sink drain. He let the tap on what I think was an attempt to flood the place. It was the longest 5 minutes I could remember. The story ends with Tyler leaving via the back alley and me following him up to a point before my gut feeling told me to hop a fence and go home to hide. Tyler's stepdad knew me by first name only, thankfully nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Here are some closing notes. The pharmacy stayed closed for a few weeks, but eventually reopened. I steered very clear of it. The dollar store did get raided and was shut down. I did eventually find Tyler 4 years later. He had become a caretaker for some kind. At time of writing, I asked my brother to see if the pharmacy was still there. It's not. The whole bodega is pretty empty these days, save for 1 or 2 secondhand clothing stores. I kind of almost want that to be longer, you know? Like, just, just, just 5 minutes in, just, well, time to rage. Want some free soft drink? Yeah? Okay. I'm gonna go berserk now. Feelings! And then he just turns into the Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
Have you ever driven a car when you shouldn't have? No, that's dangerous.
Fucking, well, detail, Mr. Sensible.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, but, like, you know what I've never done? Been near Tyler. You know?
Yeah, oh, fuck, a car's too dangerous yet,
Yeah.
Tyler.
Yeah, you gotta fucking hang around Bodega Tyler. Fucking... Again, it's just, we keep adding to this team of less men. Yes, Bodega Tyler. He's like Mr. Furious, except he's angry all the time, and frequently hurts his teammates. Both physically and emotionally. Have you ever looted a store? I think technically you're an accomplice to whatever the fuck Tyler did.
Yeah. Maybe don't tell people
Tyler
about that one.
Nato! On September 8th, 2011, I was in a cinema when a massive blackout happened in San Diego, California. I was watching Legend of Awesomest Maximus in an empty cinema. What is that?
That sounds made up.
Look that up. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
What is that?
Legend of Awesomest Maximus.
Oh. I think it's like a... It looks like a Not Another Teen movie, but like...
Let me
For like
see.
300. It's National Lampoon.
Oh, God!
That looks awful. Rip Torn's in it.
Of course he is.
Sophie Monk. 20% of
That's
Rotten
below.
Tomatoes.
That's beneath Sophie Monk. Is that like Frank Caliendo? Or who is that starring it?
Will Sasso.
Will Sasso. That's it. Yeah, I knew it was one of the Mad TVs.
Good lord.
Oh God! Someone saw that in the movies.
I welcome the blackout.
Yeah.
Write us back. Did you end up watching the movie? And did you like it? The best part about this, I looked this shit up on Wikipedia, right? The plot section is just empty. No one is bothered putting the plot in.
Oh, that is fucking...
I have never seen that.
special.
I have seen the most garbage dog shit 1-star movies
Yeah.
with the plot section filled in.
There's
And literally,
always a fucking
this
synopsis.
section is empty. You can help by adding to it.
That disrupts me. What crimes have you committed, I bet Sasso's like a fucking Wikipedia mod exclusively to keep that section blank. He just doesn't want people to know. Find the trailer for it. You know we must.
Yeah, I will. All right.
The screen went dark and the room went dark. As soon as the chaos began, people stole what they could from the concession. I left the building, but I picked up a pack of Whoppers someone had dropped on the run out. I think, I will say that is technically not. You know? I think if you pick up something someone else looted, you could just say you found it.
That's true.
And I think that's fair. I mean, I think technically you are nicking shit, but like also I'm not, too concerned about that like specific element. You found the trailer for that yet? Does a trailer exist? For
Yeah,
it?
it does. We'll watch it after this.
Okay.
I
don't know.
It will break my brain for like a bit. I can't watch it now.
Because
we got letters to read.
I know that there was a Shithouse 300 parody. I didn't know there was like a sub version of that. Because there's the one with like fucking Hercules.
It's Meet the Spartans, this one.
Oh, God. And that's bad.
I'm surprised I remember that.
Because those movies are terrible.
Oh, fucking awful.
Like, fucking god-awful. That was the
They were
absolute
what
death
killed
of-
the genre.
Yeah. Because Scary Movie 1 and 2 are fucking funny.
They're good.
And then that shit started happening. Because it's like, these aren't jokes.
No.
Even. These are just noises. I do think that you could genuinely just kill people who find those things funny and not lose anything. You know, and I don't say that lightly. You're just fucking pig food, really. Hello, Amber and Gabriel.
Hi.
I caught the Big Rock episode, and I have answers to each question for a change.
Yay.
Have you ever driven a car when you shouldn't have? Oh, God, yes.
Excellent. See? This is what I like. Yeah. Danger up front. Let's go.
I still maintain that, like, spending time with Tyler was more dangerous, but, like, okay. I'm not saying driving a car you're not supposed to isn't.
Now, if it was driving a Tyler, completely different story.
Just riding him around, got the bridle in his mouth and everything. He's gotten used to it. It's fine.
That's fine.
When I was learning to drive, we did the usual stuff. Take it around an empty field to get used to all the various pedals and levers and how a vehicle behaves. I want to think you meant car park and not like a field.
It's probably Americans who like probably field adapt.
I feel like that's not teaching you how to drive a car on a road, you know? Like
that's bad, yeah.
Like I feel like even with my limited understanding of vehicles directly, I do get that on and off-road are separate categories for a reason. Mm. The problem was, when I was with my dad at the hunting camp we belonged to in my teens, I had to follow a friend of his down the road, and I panicked and focused so much on keeping the truck between the lines that I didn't notice I was between the lines on the wrong side of the road. Whoa. I forget where my dad was. He was elsewhere doing something. So I guess this also counts for lack of proper adult supervision. But it was just me in the truck following this other truck. Thankfully, the back roads of exceptionally rural Alabama... I live in the boonies, but this was nothing much. It was like 2 steps up over bumfuck nowhere. Pretty sparse as far as traffic goes. We made it a few miles without anyone coming the other way and catching my dumbass head on. Probably the only 2 people with a car. Everyone else from your rural Alabama town still gets about on their riding Negroes. Have you ever looted a store? I also had a possible chance to loot a convenience store, but I couldn't get a ride to it at 2 in the morning. Huh. After the above incident and some others, I kind of figured out that driving wasn't for me, or safe for other people, and I arrived at this conclusion without actually having wrecked a car. So my sister was driving me home from work one night, and we needed to grab some things, so we stopped at a little convenience store on the way. Inside there's a line, and the difficulties become apparent. The clerk can't make correct change, and someone didn't bring their card. Why can't the clerk make correct change? Because he's not a key holder with access to the safe, and he's approaching his 16th straight hour on shift, with no one but him and no access to the safe to rebalance his cash drawer. Why is he 16 hours on shift? Because he hasn't heard anything from his boss or his co-workers all day.
Oh,
he's the only one being in the store all day. He said he thought he could stand to earn some overtime pay and be a good sport in case someone had gotten a car wreck or had a heart attack or some other unforeseen circumstance that left them unable to communicate with him in a timely manner.
They just didn't care.
You know, we can extend a little, human understanding and mercy to help society function. Such were his thoughts on the matter when he started his bout of overtime at 9 p.m., though no one had answered a call or replied to a text all day. So here he was with no word from absolutely anyone and his shift ending at 2 a.m. He has no ability to lock the store or access the safe. The sheer levels of fuck it this man radiated had to be seen to be believed. I think Gabriel would have found a kindred soul here. This guy was explaining all this out loud to assuage the cardless customer, and I suppose he also wanted to confess the sins he was about to do, because, you see, he told the line of customers he was going off shift at 2 a.m. Not, I'm leaving at 2 a.m. if the boss gets back to me. He said he was leaving at 2 a.m., and if he couldn't lock the door behind him, the store was going to be unmanned and unlocked.
Jesus.
I took this in, paid for the cardless guy's transaction with my card to move the line along, and got thoughtful. Unfortunately, my sister didn't want to ride out again at 2 a.m., because what is there to actually loot from an unattended convenience store? Soda and chips and beef jerky? Cigarettes? She was not swayed by my argument that a stolen bag of beef jerky probably tastes better. She was right, but I just wanted to do a little crime to say I did it, you know?
That's fair.
Yeah. I have no idea if his relief came. I'm betting it didn't. And I've never seen that guy behind the counter at that convenience store again.
Oh, he left.
Yeah.
He left, and he got fired because, like...
Why didn't you do...
It's like, why did no one ever contact me? Yeah. There is a human condition. There is a point where it's like, enough is enough.
Yeah. And he wouldn't have been... They'd have fucking fought tooth and nail to not pay him overtime, too.
Absolutely. You've got to, like... You got a duty, right? If you work somewhere where other people are working and it's like, are you in charge? Are you in charge? Then you have to be like, okay, who's in the store? You know, have you got... But like, even if the person in charge is not answering...
Did they all die on like a convenience store conference fire? Like, what the fuck? You know, because that's about the only acceptable...
Overflowing Slurpee machine.
It was their 9/11. Have you lacked proper adult supervision? I discovered internet porn in the early 2000s, when I was 13 or so, if that gives you any idea of my parents' awareness of the moral hazards of the internet. Coincidentally, about that age, my parents felt comfortable leaving me home alone while they went to go see friends or have a day out together. I mean, that's great. It was honestly not the worst move. Living out in the boonies and being a kid and climbing to stay inside because it's fucking hot and there's mosquitoes that'll kick your ass out there. I'm just impressed you had the internet out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Alabama. Like, that's nothing short of an actual fucking miracle, really. I mean, you could just be out there with, like, the sun.
Yeah.
You know? The worst I get up to, aside from internet porn, was hooking up the game systems to the big TV in the living room. The house never burnt down, no one ever broke a bone, got poisoned, or got murdered, so I guess their trust in my ability to avoid catastrophes was justified. I mean, yeah, really, like, nothing happened. You were okay. You, like, cranked it to internet porn at the age of 13, so what? You know? You didn't develop some kind of, like, strange, you know, debilitating fetish where you can now only get off to, like, I don't know, photoshops of boobs with B. Arthur's face.
Boob Arthur.
One thing that, like, finally kind of dented me a bit yesterday was, like, you know, because I've seen a lot, and I have a morbid curiosity. And, you know, part of it comes from a thing of, like, I feel like if other people are suffering terribly, I don't deserve to be comfortable. At least I can be as aware, you know?
Right.
And, like, the other part of it is just, you know, I'm curious. Like, what can happen in the world?
I see.
You know, because I figure, hey, if I find out what the edges of the room are, I'll finally know the shape of the room. And, you know, particularly when it comes to, like, weird, horny shit, is always so fascinating to me. Because it's, you know, for me it's simple and it's fairly, you know, it's primitive and it's just instinctive. And then people just, like, fuck it, they add layers of the weirdest goddamn shit on top. And it's always the kind of asexual ones that fucking get me. You know? Like, people who just like seeing women step on cakes. It's like, how'd you get there? You know?
Yeah.
What's that doing for you?
At least that's pretty harmless.
Oh yeah, like the harmless ones, it's, you know, I get the harmless ones are almost more interesting. Because there's always going to be an element of moral transgression because our sexual organs are hooked up to our fucking waste expulsion systems. And because of that, it's not a cultural thing to say, hey, don't go around sticking your fucking, you know, finger in your fucking holes and playing with your dick. Because particularly in primitive times, that could lead to, like, a fucking infection. You know, and that's you fucked. Like, that's serious. Like, this isn't some cultural fucking taboo or something. There's a material reason why you don't do this. And then, you know, you turn fucking, like, 15 and then all of a sudden it's like, I gotta jerk off all the time now. You know? And so now there's this weird thing where, like, there's all this stuff saying don't, and then there's this one big thing saying do, and that just fucks us up at a fundamental level. You know, now in order to fucking get horny, we have to go past all these weird barriers. And so that's just built in. You know, transgression is just built into the fucking system. Like, fuck, man. Like, the fucking... I think Vor has to be one of the ones where it's just like, that just seems, you know, there's one of those ones, there's a lot that you can't really do exactly, right? But I mean, even if you have the right, like, you know, like, I bet, like, what's his name, the guy from fucking Mythbusters, like Adam, I bet he could rig up some kind of fucking werewolf costume, you know, that would work and would have, like, animatronic hands and shit. And then
Japan, the Japanese, the monkfish thing they made.
The monkfish? I saw the fucking, like,
Remember
animatronic
when it
Disney.
pulled the tongue in, the covered him
Oh,
in juices?
that, yeah, God. No, yeah, you're right. All right, that's the same technology. Yeah, see, that's the thing, is I just don't think in those terms. So, like, yeah, why would I think about building, like, I don't know, a fucking life-size dragon head that can munch on me while I jack off? Why would I fucking, you know... Well, anyway, if you want to answer these questions, send your answers to I have felt like this. It's all one word, all lowercase. I have felt like this at yahoo.com. The questions today are: ever acted in anything? Ever completed a task you've put off for a long time? Ever been locked in anything? Not a cold room this time, just anything else. Like if your parents have, I don't know, put you in a fucking crate and mailed you to a family member or something. I just wouldn't even put it past, you know. Maybe that's what they wound up doing with Tyler. Just boxed him up and just shipped him somewhere.
That's true.
Him just going bonkers was completely unprompted. Like, because when it was getting up to the stepdad asking him to do something, my brain's going, all right, so he's going to have a conflict with the stepdad, and that's going to evolve. No, that's going to end completely peaceably, and then he's just going to just store that up and then just, I don't know, fucking use all his meter just alone in a store and just kick everything over.
That's a Street Fighter bonus stage.
Tyler versus the fucking bodega chemist, for starters. Like, there's just so many details in every one of these that just fucking breaks me down a little bit inside. Oh, fuck, that was the thing. Someone was, like, taking, like, you know, fucking Instagram women, and this is a whole business now. They take Instagram women, they use AI to make them look like they have Down syndrome, and then they put those on OnlyFans and get people to pay to see the Down syndrome AI people on OnlyFans. And that kicked me in the soul a little bit. I wasn't prepared for that one.
I'm speechless.
I know.
Oh. Okay.
Like, I knew it would have to exist. And it's one of those ones where, like, the morality of it is, it's a bit like my Down syndrome fighting league, you know, because on the one hand, it's like, you want to, you want to let them live a full life. And, like, you can see it on YouTube. There are Down syndrome guys who are really into UFC. Yeah. And it's really hard, you know, they don't have good reflexes. And they've had some fights, but just, like, you know, kind of like what we might call friendlies, you know, because they just don't have the reaction time.
Yeah,
it's just surmounting that's going to be a fucking challenge. And, like, there's that thing of, like, okay, if I started just a Down syndrome UFC, on the one hand, it's clearly empowering. There's clearly people who want to do it. Why not let them? Mm-hmm. On the other, Todd fights. And that's both those realities exist simultaneously. And the thing is, if it's successful, lots of people want to watch the Todd fights. You know, they're probably watching it for that reason.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
And the same thing goes for, like, Downs porn. Like, my brain goes, no. Like, you know, like, that should just be illegal. Like, my brain goes, that's in the same category as kiddie porn, but also technically not. And because I know, like, there's a fairly famous movie called Jefftown, and it's about this. It's an old documentary about this Down syndrome guy who's really into pro wrestling, liquor, and prostitutes.
I see.
Yeah, and, like, you know, like, no one gives a shit really. He's going seeing his horse, but, like, so okay, like, those guys seeing prostitutes, you know, so what? I don't really care about that, but there's just something about, hey. Let me borrow your Google for a second, because I don't want to put it in on mine.
No, fuck you. I do not want to see this. I am a minority. I don't need more reasons.
All right, I'll borrow my housemates.
Oh, God.
All right, well, on that note, remember, I have felt like this at yahoo.com. Ever acted in anything? Ever completed a task you've put off for a long time? Ever been locked in anything, like a conversation you just wish would end?
Yeah.
I have been Gabriel Twist.
I have been Amber Twist.
Good night.
Good luck.